Yeah, I was saying I like to run ad blocker specifically when we're doing things like this because I don't want everyone to see all the ads when we're trying to show an article.
That makes sense. That's smart. Yeah.
We're sharing all this stuff and all these ads coming up everywhere, but some things don't quite work when
Yeah.
I just turn it on my ad blocker now and we'll get started. Just reloading these things now that I got the ad blocker on. And we will get going. So let me turn this off. Welcome back to Futuretech, your weekly source for the latest in tech, innovation, and business. I'm the startup coach, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Jon Irwin. How you doing today, Jon?
Good. How are you, Craig? We're supposed to get a big storm today for those listening live. So
Yeah, I saw 4 o'clock or something. It's gonna start, so we
yeah.
definitely want to get anything out of the way early today.
Gonna get cozy in bed. That's for sure. By then, watch the basketball tournament, NCAA.
Yeah, you got this March Madness thing
Yeah.
going on, right?
Yeah. I know it's not tech, but I love it. I actually have a decent bracket this year. I did some different metrics, and yeah, my bracket didn't totally get destroyed yesterday, the first day. So love it. It's great.
That's fantastic. And I know you were doing a thing. We shared that at the beginning of the last episode, I believe.
Yeah, I had a
You've been
few
at
people
the
join my pool, so it's really well. I haven't looked at it this morning, so I'll have to double check to see where we're at. But yeah,
fabulous. We might as well get right into it. And with this first thing, which is Ironlev's breakthrough, testing low cost Maglev trains, I guess, on regular rail tracks.
yeah, not trains, but like Maglev. Yeah, Maglev. I guess transportation, whatever. I don't know, but no, this is cool because for those of you that don't know, Maglev technology to build the Maglev infrastructure costs billions and billions of dollars for like, I can't remember what the cost was per kilometer, but it's ridiculous. So this company is groundbreaking technology that was developed by a company called Ironlev, which is an Italian company, and it's considered passive magnetic levitation for rail transport. So it utilizes passive magnetic forces to levitate a vehicle above existing rail tracks. So they can use the existing infrastructure, which is also awesome. For those that don't know what maglev is, it's like it creates it's two magnets. So when you put positive and positive together, they oppose themselves, right? There's that force that you see. So this is like that. It creates a cushion of air, but obviously on a much larger scale and much stronger magnets between the vehicle and the track. So the difference is this requires substantially less power and doesn't require specialized infrastructure, which is cool. So what they did was the first test they did was they tested a prototype on a 2-kilometer stretch of rail track somewhere in Italy. I think the Veneto region of Italy. So they tested it with a 1-ton prototype equipped with the magnetic skids and achieved a speed of 70 kilometers per hour. Now, again, that's not super fast, but again, it's prototype. So the cool thing about this is they did it without any modifications to the track or additional infrastructure, which is weird, which is cool. So this successful test demonstrates the potential for the technology, and it can be easily integrated into existing rail networks. One of the most impressive parts of this, and I touched on it a little bit, is their cost effectiveness. What they're claiming is that the technology could reduce infrastructure costs by up to 90% compared to maglev systems. And the passive nature of the technology means that it requires minimal power to operate, making it a very attractive option for sustainable and low noise too. Because think about it, you've got a cushion of air and you've got just something floating over it. You don't have these wheels that go clickety clack, clickety clack. I laugh at that because back when I was growing up, that's what the sound a train makes. So their next step is they're going to develop a 20-ton vehicle, and they're going to try to increase the speed to 200 kilometers per hour. So There are questions regarding the cost of permanent magnets used in the system, again, because these types of magnets typically, especially if we look at Maglev, are very expensive. That's one of the biggest costs is these magnets. So there's a lot of potential here. This one I'm excited about.
And I've been showing a little bit of the video where they're talking and demoing the stuff while you're.
Yeah.
This looks really interesting. I'm a skeptic as always. So I look at this and this is okay, because at first my thought is, okay, have you ever ridden on the GO train here? Those tracks are pretty rickety. I'm not sure if I would feel safe, but it looks like they're doing it on similarly maintained tracks.
Yeah. The question I have about this video though, Craig, just because of all the deep fakes nowadays, is this legit? Like, sure, they've got all this stuff and they posted it. And so, again, this is me being skeptical because there's just something about it. It just, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the quality of the video. But I watch this and I'm just like, is this real?
Yeah, actually, this does look not real at this level.
Yeah. So I didn't want to bring that up, but I figured I might as well because, and then if you look at the tracks too, right? Again, this I shouldn't be skeptical because I'm really excited about this, but I don't see any, and they said it without any additional infrastructure and it's passive magnetics, but like I don't see anything extra there. You're trying to zoom in.
I'm trying to zoom in and it's not working.
So I really hope that this is cool. This is tech, because there are, like, I know in Canada here, VIA is trying to introduce a speed train between Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal. This would be a much better option. But we'll have to see. Like, it's curious where they're at with the technology, where they're going to be with the technology. So.
Yeah, and let's face it, this isn't actually moving very fast.
No, the fastest, they've got it going at 70 kilometers at the fastest. So I can't remember how fast actual Maglev is, but it's super fast.
Yeah, the video is pretty slow. I guess 70 kilometers an hour is pretty good. But yeah, when you get to Maglev, I've seen some of them going well over, I don't know, a couple 100 kilometers an hour. The problem is the tracks are built for that. Exactly. I would imagine you're not going to hit those speeds on tracks like the ones we ride on.
No, but if we can get even double the speed of current trains on our current system, then that's better. But I don't even know. Yeah.
So do they have to put stuff on the track, or do they not have to put stuff on the track? Because it looks like there's nothing on the track. I thought they have to put magnets on the existing track as it is.
Yeah, so I was trying to look at that, and so I guess we can talk about the difference between this system compared to traditional rail systems. Oh no, but it doesn't make sense that they could have magnet, because you need two magnets on like, you need a magnet on each side, right? So it doesn't make sense to me that there would not be some sort of infrastructure on the ground levitating the payload.
Yeah. And I guess that's part of the issue is the rare earth magnets, the rare earth metals to create the magnets that they put along the track.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how much? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
How much cheaper is this supposed to be than building, like, this is supposed to be a lot less expensive?
Yeah, it's supposed to be 90% less expensive. So so the reason why, there's a couple things, is the ability to retrofit, is this what they're claiming, retrofit the technology onto existing railway tracks. And also the reduced, because it takes a lot of power for Maglev trains to operate because of powering those magnets on a active system. So they're using passive permanent magnets instead of electromagnets or superconducting magnets. and that consumes a lot less energy. So, and being able to put it, they don't have to build a whole new railway system, apparently, for this technology to work.
Yeah, this looks really interesting. Passive magnets that rather than powered magnets, which is probably what we would need here, I would think. Again, just because of the snow and the weather and the expansion and shrinking and whatnot, but I'm sure they've got that kind of stuff figured out. But they say you can move 2 tons with a simple light hand pressure once it's on this. So you're talking about way less energy to move like a huge train of people.
Yeah. So, and for those of you that don't know, like we're talking about like electromagnets, passive magnets. So passive magnets work on, they work based on intrinsic magnetic properties of certain materials. And the thing is, they don't require an external power source. So the magnetic behavior arises from the structure of the material. And so to give you some examples, the most common type of passive magnet is a permanent magnet, like what you have. And they're made from materials like iron, nickel, cobalt, and different various alloys. So they're just, they contain, there's material where the magnetic fields of the atoms align, if that makes sense. So in an unmagnetized piece of material, the magnetic domains are randomly oriented, whereas here they're lined up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so let's talk about power consumption a little bit. We can understand the difference between active and passive when it comes to maglev. You're not powering these magnets the whole time, so passive is way better from an energy consumption point of view. But how much does iron magnetics levitation system compare to, say, traditional rail systems in terms of energy consumption?
Yeah, so in terms of energy consumption, it's I couldn't find exactly, but the thing is by using passive permanent magnets instead of electromagnets or superconducting magnets, they're going to consume less energy during operation. I don't know how much energy they're going to consume, but the thing is so if we're talking about, so there's there's 2 types of maglev. There's the EMS, which is electromagnetic suspension, and there's EDS, which is electrodynamic suspension. So EDS systems use superconducting magnets, which require cooling to maintain their superconducting properties. Whereas, and comparing that to iron lead technology, on the other hand, they use permanent magnets that don't require cooling. So when we're talking about the EMS system, which is the electromagnetic suspension, the thing is the electromagnets on the vehicle interact with the ferromagnetic rails on the track. So it pulls the train upwards on the track, which enables the levitation. So the thing is with EMS is it requires a constant supply of electricity to the electromagnets to maintain levitation, which makes them an active system. Which, in contrast, iron lead technology relies on the passive magnets, which don't require a continuous power supply for levitation.
So we can see how this would apply to trains. Are there other applications for this passive magnetic levitation system?
Kind of, but like it's more, it's all around transportation from what I've seen. So you've got your urban public transportation. So it can be used in urban public transport systems, like
Streetcars,
like the Eglinton LRT. Since it's still not complete, they could probably just implement this and get there faster. There's so obviously intercity travel. There's freight transport, airport connections. It could be used to provide high-speed, efficient connections between airports. Again, the cool thing about this apparently is it's super quiet. So where there's noise restrictions, where there is where you want to reduce the noise, anything like that, this is perfect for that. So there's also special purpose applications which could be used. So the system could be used for high-speed testing of rail vehicles and components, and then integration with other transport modes. Again, it's all transport-based. I can't think of any other use case for this at this point.
Yeah, and how, like, they have pictures of it kind of cars on these tracks. So is the plan, let me, if I can,
There we go.
yeah, is the plan to somehow put cars on tracks for long-term transportation between cities and stuff?
It could be, and this could be the solution to what was that? The pod thing from Elon Musk. What's that
Hyperloop?
called? The Hyperloop. This could be a more reasonable solution, and this way you get to stay in your car too, and it could transport you and your car from Toronto to Montreal in 30 minutes or 45 minutes, which is really cool. I like that. I like that there's that possibility.
Yeah, basically saying here that they can move a 10-ton wagon with the same force needed to lift a 22-pound backpack. So if you can move your car along the track at the same effort it takes to move a 22-pound backpack, then that's pretty impressive.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm really curious how this passive technology actually works. Is it sustainable as far as long term? Because or like I'm you know what, I am super, I know I'm being skeptical, but I'm really excited about this project because anything that can use current infrastructure and reduce costs makes it a much more viable tech to be commercialized.
Yeah, and I'm just doing a little research here while you're talking about it. There's a couple of press releases talking about that they have demonstrated this and it's real.
Yeah.
Like just a few days ago.
Oh,
like
okay.
Saying.
But there's so many challenges for them in order to get this to commercialize, to implement their technology on a larger scale. Like you've got the cost and availability of materials. So the magnets are often, and we talked about this, are often rare earth elements such as neodymium. And the production and rare earth supplies are largely controlled by a few countries, particularly China, which could lead to potential price volatility and supply chain issues. So that's a huge concern, especially now with everything going on with BRICS and all that sort of stuff. There's going to be some challenges. So the other thing too is, although IronLev's technology is designed to be retrofitted onto existing rail tracks, integrating the system with the complex network of tracks, switches, signals, and other infrastructure components could pose a significant challenge. So they'll have to develop and test solutions for a seamless integration of their technology. So obviously they're going to have to collaborate with the rail operators for this, but that's a lot because there's a lot of redundancies, a lot of safety measures put in place for these trains and things like for this transportation infrastructure. So yeah,
like I like to speak about my experience when we're talking about things like this. So other people will have different experiences, but I ride the train from Burlington to Toronto all the time. In the winter, we have snow on the tracks, ice on the tracks. Everything has to be slowed down or stopped. Things to be melted and removed. We had not too long ago that shut down because they couldn't have the cameras on the tracks or something weren't working. So they were shut down for all evening at a Union station. So that kind of stuff really makes you wonder, adding more things to the track, is it really worth it? And
exactly.
it just makes all these things more complicated. So
honestly,
it takes a lot of time. Yeah.
I think the best test case for this is Canada because we have way less rail infrastructure than Europe. It's horrible how crappy our rail infrastructure is. So I feel like this would be Canada would be a good test bed for this.
Yeah. Now, do you think that we are crappy because we are so spread out?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably lobbyists lobbied for more focus on airport infrastructure, aviation infrastructure, because of that distance. But who knows?
So, what are the main challenges? Well, we talked about most of them. Is there any other challenges,
Yeah,
besides all the stuff to deploy that they have to overcome to implement this on a larger scale?
for sure. Yeah, there's maintenance, and we touched on this briefly. The maintenance and long-term durability. So they need to ensure that there's obviously long-term durability and maintainability of the system. So they'll need to develop robust maintenance protocols and procedures to ensure the system remains reliable and efficient over time, which obviously is going to involve training programs and maintenance. The thing that I'm worried about is the long-term durability of the magnets themselves. How long are they going? How long are they, like, what is the life expectancy of them if you're using them on a daily basis like this, right? What are the risks associated with long-term constant use? There's, again, an expert in this field might understand that, but I don't. So there's obviously the public perception and acceptance is a challenge, and funding and investment. It seems like they've got a positive prototype that they've been successful with, so that might be less of a challenge. But scalability in manufacturing, again, we talked about it a little bit, but yeah, scaling up production. Again, these are all challenges that are associated with any kind of startup like this, right? But regulatory and safety considerations. I know there's a lot of regulatory and a lot of policies around rail infrastructure and transportation. So they're going to have to take a whole new step around it. So yeah, there's still a lot of challenges they're going to have to overcome.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference to seeing what we just saw in the video. 3 people release it to 3 people a kilometer or 2 down the road, pick it up. It's not moving very fast. It's
No.
a small flat thing. We're not talking about dual tall trains with people on them moving at 100 kilometers an hour plus, with winds and all that stuff going on. There's some safety and other things that really need to be tested.
Yeah. Like, how do we break this? Obviously, it's going to be using some sort of propulsion engine to move it. But we'll have to, I don't know how that works. So
yeah, this is really cool. I'm interesting to see. Do we know anything about when they're going to be doing these larger scale tests?
no, I'm guessing in the next year or two. But that's just my assumption. I didn't see anything on that.
Fabulous. So let's get ready to jump to this next one. I really cool with transportation technology that we can get much more energy efficient when we're moving around huge payloads.
Yeah.
And I think something like this would change the industry. There's always pipeline versus train discussion, but when you can lay these kinds of tracks and depending on longevity or update the existing tracks, this becomes a much more versatile way of moving things.
Yeah, and this is my culture growing up, though. Anytime I hear Maglev or anything like that, I think of the Simpsons episode with the monorail and the disasters there, and maybe that's why I'm skeptical about this.
So let's jump to this next one. Share this instead. So physicists finally find a problem that only quantum computers can solve. It says can do, so I'm not really sure why it's using that specific wordage.
Spoiler alert, it has like the only problem that quantum computers can solve is quantum problems. So for years, just to kind of give you some background, researchers have been on a quest to find a problem that can definitively demonstrate the superiority of quantum computers over classical machines, which is a concept known as quantum advantage. the search has been challenging, as to be honest, and we talked about this earlier in an earlier podcast. Classical computers have proven remarkably adept at many computational tasks, and we found ways to push them further. So and we won't get into Peter Shor's quantum algorithm, but he had a quantum algorithm for factoring large numbers in 1994. That was a significant milestone, but its applicability was narrow, and the possibility of classical computers eventually finding an efficient factoring method remained. So just leave that there. So now there's a team led by theoretical physicist John Preskill from Caltech. He might have, which he's saying he might have finally cracked the code. What he's done is, by studying the energy landscapes of quantum systems, they might have identified a specific useful problem that's easy for quantum computers to solve, but remains very difficult for classical computers. The problem revolves around determining the local minimum energy state of quantum complex systems, a crucial challenge in fields like chemistry, material science, and quantum physics. So the thing is while finding the absolute ground state has proven intractable for classical and quantum computers, what they've done is they've discovered that locating the local energy minima could actually be a task where quantum machines excel. So what they've done is they've leveraged newly developed quantum algorithms for simulating quantum thermodynamics, and they've been able to devise a method for quantum computers to efficiently determine these local energy minima. So why it's truly remarkable is that it's a problem that is unlikely to be dequantized by future classical algorithms. So this is one where even if we push the computers further and further and further, the classical computers shouldn't be able to solve this.
We're always talking about quantum versus classic computers, and whether we're going to get to an interesting place with quantum or not, because to me quantum means certain things, and like calculating all the possibilities between 0 and 1 is great, but why?
Yeah.
Like, why do we to get to that point? So let's start with, what are some potential applications of quantum computers in, say, a field of material science?
Yeah. So there's quite a few, and I won't get into too many details because it just, again, when we talk about quantum, I don't want to lose viewers by talking about these huge quantum concepts, right? But again, this is all quantum related. So modeling and simulation of quantum materials is one, where many materials exhibit properties that arise from quantum mechanical effects, such as superconductivity and strong correlated electron systems. So classical computers, they struggle to accurately model and simulate these quantum materials due to the exponential scaling of computational resources required. So this is where quantum computers can help, is the computational resources required. Essentially, for quantum computing, it's infinite. So they can handle when the scaling becomes large, right? So quantum computers can efficiently simulate these systems by leveraging quantum effects like superposition and entanglement. That's how they're able to handle the scalability there. Some other examples are quantum chemistry calculations. So for complex molecules and materials, catalytic processes, bond formations, different things like that. That's where that could be used. Materials optimizations and discovery. So it could be used to optimize the properties of materials by exploring vast computational spaces of compositions, structures, processing conditions. Quantum machine learning for material science, simulating phase transitions and dynamics, quantum sensing, quantum cryptography and secure communication. So this is one we've talked about in the past. So again, I think in one of our podcasts we talked about quantum encryption at one point, and they proven it. That's for shopping or something, but I can't remember. But quantum computers can enable secure communication and data transitions through cryptography. Wow, I'm having a hard time saying that. So again, there's a bunch of potential applications. Again, and this is all, a lot of these are still, most of these are still theoretical, right? So
yeah, we did unhackable shopping on the quantum internet was the article we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do quantum computers simulate the quantum thermodynamics to determine the local energy minima?
Yeah, so they can simulate quantum thermodynamics and leverage that capability to determine that through an approach that was developed by Anthony Chen. But here's just a quick high-level explanation. So I'm not going to get into too much detail because I don't even understand a lot of it. But so they're simulating quantum thermodynamics. That's the first step. Then they what they're doing is they're annealing and local minima. So one of the key applications of simulating the quantum thermodynamics is to study the energy landscapes of quantum systems. The thing is, many quantum systems, especially complex ones like spin glasses, exhibit rugged energy landscape with multiple local minima. So when such a system is cooled, it tends to settle into one of these local energy minima rather than reaching the global ground state. So what they're doing is they're trying to understand these local minima to predict the properties and behavior of the system. The next step is a quantum approach to local minima. So by carefully controlling the cooling process and exploiting quantum effects like tunneling and superposition, the quantum algorithm can efficiently explore the energy landscape and coverage to a local minimum state. And then the final one is quantum computers on the can leverage quantum parallelism and other quantum effects to efficiently explore these vast state spaces. And this is where we're talking about the scalability, right? So again, we have to note that all of this is theoretical, and they're theoretical foundations, and they're trying to lay these theoretical foundations down. But through these tests and these theories, they're demonstrating that this quantum advantage could happen, but there's still challenges to that, if that makes sense. Oh, I think you're on mute, Craig.
Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, there's challenges to all these things, and we talk about quantum, and still trying to figure out, where they're going to get the value back on quantum computing as everyone rushes for quantum superiority at a country or computer technology level. So now we're starting to see the question, is there going to be such thing as quantum superiority? Because are there problems only quantum computers can solve? And we're coming to some of them, but they're only quantum problems. So can you explain the concept of quantum advantage in more detail?
For sure. Yeah. So again, I'm not an expert. This is just from me doing research and learning myself. So it's a fundamental goal in the field of quantum computing, and it's important to understand. So quantum advantage, also known as what you said, quantum supremacy, what is it? It refers to the ability of quantum computers to solve certain computational problems significantly faster than classical algorithms running on the most powerful classical computers. So in other words, it's the demonstration of clear computational advantage that quantum computers have over classical computers for specific tasks. Now, the thing is to achieve quantum advantage, what they need to do is they need to identify problems that are intractable for classical computers, even with the most advanced algorithms and hardware. These problems should be able to be solved efficiently on a quantum computer by exploiting the unique properties of quantum mechanics. And I talked about that earlier, like superposition, entanglement, and even quantum parallelism. So it's a belief, right? So the pursuit of quantum advantage is driven by the belief that there are certain computational tasks that are fundamentally better suited for quantum computers. Now, achieving that is a significant milestone in the development of quantum computing, because what that would do is it would demonstrate the practical utility of quantum computers. Because right now there's all these theories, there's all these different things that are theoretical, that are unproven, and that just aren't feasible, aren't practical, right? And so there's this rush, a race to get to that, to prove quantum advantage, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to ask another question. For stuff like this, how long does quantum advantage actually last? Because as soon as they kind of figure out what to measure, how to measure it, and all the properties in between, they'll be able to throw it on a classical computer saying, hey, you measure this light and you measure this heat and you measure this at this level, you'll be okay. But it takes a quantum computer to kind of figure out the stuff at that level.
For sure. But the thing is, right, is once you have those parameters or those metrics, that's only for one specific use case. So you're still going to need quantum to evaluate the plethora, what's the word I'm looking for? The permutations of combinations of potential solutions, where it would take a classical computer probably years to figure out all of those different permutations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you may have covered this, but why do we care about the minimum power state?
Why do we care about the minimum power state?
Yeah,
Yeah, so we care about the minimum power state because it could lead to breakthroughs in drug design, energy storage, different things like that. So we're talking about local energy landscapes. So if we're talking drug design, right? So understanding the local energy landscape of biomolecules, such as proteins and enzymes, it's really crucial for developing effective drugs. And the three-dimensional structure and behavior of these biomolecules are heavily influenced by their energy landscapes, which determine, and we talked about this before, their folding, but we didn't talk about binding affinities and interactions with potential drug molecules. So by using quantum computers, we can determine the local energy minima of these biomolecular systems and gain insights into their confrontational dynamics and potential binding sites, which could be used to design more potent and selective drugs that target specific or binding pockets, right? So the other thing is energy storage, if we're talking about this. So in the field of energy storage, and we've talked about this many times, like batteries and stuff, advanced battery technologies rely heavily on the understanding of energy landscapes of electrode materials and electrolytes. So quantum computers could be used to accurately model the energy landscapes of electrode materials, such as lithium-ion compounds or other solid-state electrolytes, which exhibit complex quantum behaviors. By identifying the local energy minima and transition pathways, they could design materials with improved ionic conductivity, higher energy densities, and longer lifetimes, if that makes sense. And let's just talk about my favorite thing, hydrogen storage. So determining the local energy landscapes of materials that can reversely absorb and release hydrogen can be crucial for developing efficient and safe storage solutions. So quantum computers could help identify materials with optimal binding energies and kinetics for hydrogen uptake and release. So those are just a few examples. But again, a lot of this, and I'll be completely honest, a lot of this research that I did went over my head, and I had to do a lot of extra reading for this one, because this is really complex. And when it comes to quantum, anything quantum mechanics, quantum physics, quantum thermal, like, you throw out everything that you've learned in school. Every single concept is now broken. And so it's really difficult to wrap your head around these new quantum concepts and quantum theories and things like that.
Definitely.
Really interesting.
I struggle a little bit to get some of my head around some of these things because for the most part, one, it's either magic and predicts the future, can do anything, or it's smoke and mirrors. So I'm trying to figure out which it is, right? Or is it just a next evolution? Because governments and companies are spending billions and billions on creating these things. And we talked last week around the $5 million X prize to figure out the quantum question of value.
Yeah.
So this is all leading down the same path of like, okay, we're doing all this work and we're spending all the money, but we better find some good uses for this, or the money might dry up soon. I feel like that's what's happening.
I honestly don't think the money will dry up because of the race. Like the second that you can come up with a practical quantum computer, the first person of that is they're gonna take over the world essentially, but not really. But like to have that practicality, to have that computer that can pretty much hack into any system, that can do anything like that, like that power is crazy.
Yeah, this is very cool technology, and we know some companies in Canada that are working on different aspects of the hardware. How do you think the rapid progress in the quantum hardware development will impact the experimental demonstration of a quantum advantage?
So I think it'll have a profound impact because it addresses one of the key bottlenecks in this pursuit. So achieving quantum advantage requires not only the identification of a suitable computational problem, but the development of efficient quantum algorithms. But also, this is the key part, is the availability of sufficiently powerful and reliable quantum hardware. Now, we talked about this before, where the error rate of quantum computers currently is ridiculous. And so that's going to be a big problem. So without quantum computers large enough and with enough computational capabilities, it becomes impossible to demonstrate the superiority of quantum computers over classical approaches. But in recent years, obviously, we've witnessed some advancements in the development of quantum hardware. And we've got companies like Honeywell, IBM, I think Google has one, that are racing to build a larger, more sophisticated quantum computer. So I think a few years, IonQ is the other one too. So the advancements in quantum hardware are not only limited by just increasing the number of qubits, but they're going to need improvements in qubit coherence times, gate fidelities, big one here, error correction techniques. Those are going to be crucial for the reliability and accuracy of quantum computations. So here's the thing, right? We're in this race, just like back in the day when computers first started being developed and started being more mainstream and started being tested. We had a computer with the computational power way less than your cell phone, which took up a huge room. That was one of the first concepts, right? So we're at that stage still.
This is really cool. We like to stay on top of quantum here. Is there anything else you want to add before we run off to the next thing?
No, quantum is cool. Quantum is great. But just if you're interested in it, just realize that anything you've learned to date, throw it out the window.
Fair enough. So let's jump on to this next topic, which is breaking ground. New artificial life creation. What's going on here?
Yeah, so this is another one, the really cool concept. So there's been groundbreaking research that's been conducted by scientists at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. And what their work has done is it's brought us one step closer to understanding the origins of life on Earth and potentially creating artificial life in the laboratory, clones. But so the research team led by Gerald Joyce, I think I'm pronouncing that right, who's the president of the Salk Institute. What they've done is they've created an RNA molecule capable of accurately copying other types of RNA, which results in a functioning enzyme. The achievement, what it's based on, is the theory that RNA was the initial ingredient in the so-called primordial soup before the existence of DNA or proteins. So for all of those who don't believe in Darwinism or anything like that, I apologize. It's not about belief in Darwinism. Who don't accept Darwinism, I apologize. This probably isn't up your alley, but so the thing is, the thing to talk that in this article is, while the lab-made RNA molecule, it's not yet self-replicating, it does represent a milestone in the quest to recreate the conditions that may have given rise to early life on Earth. If self-replicating RNA can be achieved, it would be considered a form of life. And this is stated by Joyce, and I didn't really fact check that, but I'm going to take him at his word for this one. So the key to success in this research, it lies in finding the right balance between replication accuracy and mutation, because RNA must make extremely close copies of the original molecule for Darwinian evolution to occur. However, exact replication alone is not sufficient. So as mutations are necessary for growth and development, researchers found that this balance, by creating an RNA replicator molecule, which has the ability to chop molecules, could present challenges in finding that balance. So the implications of this research are far-reaching. It opens up new avenues for studying the earliest stages of evolution origins on life, which is really, really cool. But it also raises the possibility of creating synthetic life forms. What was that movie with, what was it, Replicants? No, I can't remember.
Which one?
The one with surrogates. Surrogates. Yeah.
Yep.
This could be the surrogates. This could be the path to surrogacy or to surrogates. So it could have applications in fields such as medicine and biotechnology, which is really cool.
So they talk about, if RNA is created that is able to replicate itself, then it would be alive. So we talked about self-replicating DNA robots and nanobots, but they weren't RNA based. So combining what we know here and what we've talked about in past around, these self-replicating structures that can fold and do different things. Yeah. How close are we able to applying that to RNA?
So I believe, based on, and again, I'm not an expert in this field, but folding is a key part of this. And so I'm not sure if the research that we talked about in the previous article is going to help, but the concepts from that research are being used in these experiments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's specific here saying, it has to be, almost identical copies, but starts to get fuzzy, like a multiple photocopier of a machine. So you got to wonder what that becomes. Does this lead to the gray blob on the floor?
Yeah, well, not only that though, it's a fine line, because in order for evolution to occur, mutation has to happen, and so it can't be an exact copy every single time, but it also can't mutate every single time. So that is a huge challenge from what I read, as far as them being able to replicate this and to scale this and for this to continue forward, if that makes sense.
Am I the only one concerned about this? Like, if the error rate is too high, you can't maintain the genetic information, it just blows up. So this is like every sci-fi nightmare we've seen, the person just blows up.
Exactly. Yeah, and this is exactly this is exactly anyone's horror or nightmares come to life here. Anything that you've seen in sci-fi movies, this is it. And the cool thing though, and this is, I watched a video before, sci-fi movies have driven a lot of this research. Like the Jurassic Park movie has driven people to try to pull and reanimate or to replicate dinosaurs. Like there's all of these concepts. A lot of them are stitched into most of the sci-fi movies that are out there.
So they use this technique called hammerhead RNA, which chops molecules when the replicator module does its thing on the hammerhead RNA for each new generation. Like, I don't. This scares the crap out of me. At first, I looked on his little bit jaw dropping. Says the research. It's researcher. It's super neat. So they're working on this stuff in labs, trying to get this stuff to replicate itself.
Yeah. And just for those that want to know, I did some quick research. Hammerhead RNA, it refers to a class of non-coding RNA molecules that fold into a unique 3-helix structure, which resembles a hammerhead, which is why they're calling it hammerhead RNA. So they're naturally occurring class of structured non-coding RNA that can self-cleave through specific activity, and they play diverse biological roles. So, So
I just follow the link here. This is interesting. Synthetic life and the value of life. If humans eventually attain the ability to create new life forms, how will it affect the value of life? Which is a very interesting question.
Yeah, there's so many ethical questions that come up from this, like playing God. So like whether humans have the right to play God by designing and manipulating living systems, unintended consequences. So the creation of artificial life carries the risk of unintended consequences, such as accidental release of engineered organisms into the environment, or the evolution of these organisms in unexpected and potentially harmful ways. Ownership and control, autonomy and moral status, societal impacts, dual use, public trust. Like there's so much that scares the living crap out of me from this.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna jump back to the regular stuff other than the ethical implications, but I'd like to just talk about this. So the main conclusion of this study was that it's unlikely that a future human ability to create life will have a great negative impact on these characteristics of life. Therefore, unlikely the value will be negative affected if we create synthetic life. So go ahead, go nuts. We don't think it's going to negatively affect us. So
obviously they're going to say that, though.
I know. That's why it just makes me laugh when you're like, who believes this stuff, right?
Yeah. Who believes that it's not going to affect our lives at all, right? Like, yeah, this is really scary stuff. I'm curious to see. So whenever I see something like this, I always question, is there technology that's even further advanced that they're just not covering, that's more that's hidden, or that's in stealth mode, right?
You would have to assume there is. But what is it and how far along it is, who knows?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about the military did the Men Who Stare at Goats program. That was a real thing. They spent a whole bunch of money on, so they're doing stuff.
Yeah. There's so many. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
There's so many CIA documents that are being declassified that just scare the living crap out of me as to what experiments they've done. And so if that stuff is being declassified, then what is still classified and what is still happening? Again, we can turn this show into a conspiracy show.
Well, again, I mean, yeah, sure, we could go and talk about all the rumors and stuff out there, but it's not conspiracy to say that governments and organizations are testing new technology and bio and whatever in labs.
Yeah.
Like, of course they are. They're all doing it. Just a question of what. I mean, the pharmaceutical companies are testing new drugs all the time. I'm not suggesting they're Resident Evil, whatever that corporation is, trying to kill everybody. I'm saying
Umbrella
this experiment. Yeah, umbrella. Yeah, I'm saying that that this stuff is happening, and the tech stuff. We talked about the super soldier stuff they've been working on. These things are happening. It's just a question of how far along they are, how much money it's getting. That kind of stuff. It's not necessarily conspiracy theory unless you go down deep and say this specific thing is happening and it's causing these other things. That they're doing the scientific research to increase military, to increase, talked about, the quantum advantage. They want advantage in all these things. And if they can create artificial life, that's another thing that we can get an advantage of. So what are some of the technological advances that will be needed to scale up production of self-replicating RNA?
Yeah, so some research that I've done, there's quite a few, and I'll just list them out. I won't get into the details of them, but they're going to need improved RNA synthesis methods. They're going to need better purification and characterization techniques, which all of this stuff sounds like quantum could help with. But anyways, they're going to need enhanced stability and delivery systems. They're going to need integration. They're going to need to figure out integration with other biological systems. And again, this talks to the quantum stuff, advanced computational tools. And obviously, once all of that's done, they're going to need a scalable manufacturing process, which is that's the part that actually scares me the most, is when they start to scale it, because that's when you can have the problems. That's when you can run into the big problems, right? The mutants and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we've been trained to fear the worst, but sometimes, reality is worse than fiction.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder about this. Like, for example, in the original Ant-Man movie, the enemy was trying to steal the suit, but he had that, I don't know what it was, that little gun that shrunk people into some little goo that turned them, like, just killed them, turned them into a pile of flesh. Like, you should have just sold that to the military and he would have been way better off.
Yeah.
So I can see, this kind of stuff, that the pricker that kills you becomes instantly real when you talk about conspiracy theories, because you just prick somebody with a self-replicating RNA and 10 minutes later he blows up.
Yeah, exactly. There's no trace.
So what are some of the current methods being explored for synthesis of self-replicating RNA?
There's quite a few. So there's several methods that are being explored. What the thing is their aim is to overcome the limitations of traditional RNA synthesis and enable efficient production of complex functional RNA structures. One is enzymatic synthesis. The other one is chemical synthesis. We've got in vitro evolution. We've got non-enzymatic templated synthesis, which is I know it sounds like a lot, but it seeks to mimic the early stages of RNA-based life by exploring more of a template-directed synthesis. Then you have combination of multiple approaches as well. So because this is such a new technology, there's going to be so much that's going to be tried. And there's going to be so many new innovative strategies that are going to emerge as a result of this.
Yeah, we'll follow this, so stay tuned for future episodes so we stay on top of this technology, because it's interesting, fun, and scary. And our conspiracy hats get going once we start thinking about how far down the road it is. What do you got going on this week, John?
So next week I've got, so first off, we've got the CIX after party, which is going to be huge.
March 27th.
March 27th, Wednesday, March 27th, which is going to be good, starting at 6 o'clock. Get out there, get your tickets, get there early. It's great for networking. On Tuesday, I've got an AI meetup. So that's Ryan Wong who's putting this on. So Gen AI talk. We're going to do some networking, and we're going to have an Uno tournament, which is kind of fun.
Nice. Is that in Toronto?
Yeah, that is at Loco Space.
Excellent. I'll be at CIX on the 26th. I might not be at the 27th because we got the after party and a few other things going on. If you buy your startup investor drinks tickets, go to startupdrinksto.com. If you buy it before Monday, I'll be drawing for two people will get free tickets to CIX, a $300 value. So go there and check it out. You can find out almost
a great conference for startup investors. So
Absolutely. I've talked to some of the people there, and it's there for every 2 founders, there's 1 investor. You're never going to get that ratio anywhere else. So if
No.
you want to talk to investors who are actively looking and start making connection, I know several startups that have been funded, got their first investors at CIX, and then went on to do amazing things. So the Canadian Innovation Exchange Awards Program, it's a great place to go. Go definitely check it out.
For sure.
And if people want to talk about government funding and sources of funding, where do they go?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jon Irwin, JON-IRWIN. Reach out to me. Easy to find. Happy. Reach out if you have any questions. Happy to help.
Jeff, definitely go to TorontoStarts.com/futurecheck and check out the podcast, or on Apple or Spotify. If you're stuck in your business and you're struggling to become profitable, find new clients, or take the next step, book a discovery call. Let's talk about how do we get you unstuck and make you profitable, moving to the next level. Just go to startupcoach.ca, and we'll see you next week.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Craig.